November 28, 1969. A woman named Betsy Aardsma was killed silently while doing research in the Penn State University Library. Stabbed once in the heart, her pulmonary artery was severed. There was little external bleeding, and to top things off, she was wearing a red dress, so those nearby didn't notice immediately that she'd been stabbed. Worse yet, this murder is still unsolved.
That's nuts, man. And I love libraries too. I mean, one of my favorite parts in school was going to the massive library we had at university and just walking around and doing homework for an entire day. I could be there for 24/7. But that's just terrifying. Why would you take a library and turn it into a dangerous place? Evil people. Again, that's the bystander complex of just like, oh, there's no way that's a gruesome murder. There's no way that's actually a dead body. There's no way, but then it is. Ugh, absolutely terrifying.
Arizona, the ghosts of Slaughterhouse Canyon. I'm here for it already. During the 1800s, there was a family who lived down in the canyon. They were very poor, so the father would venture out into the canyon for food for his family. As you might have guessed, one day the father did not return, so his family slowly starved and descended into madness. The next day, she succumbed to starvation. The legend states that if you go down to Slaughterhouse Canyon at night, even now, you will hear the loud, anguished cries of the mother who lost her mind. Did they not think that maybe... Okay, now I don't know their life. Well, I do now, actually. They went mad and just starved to death. When the dad didn't return, maybe they should have gone outside. No? That would have been my first thought. It's like, well, how was the weather? They're in a canyon, it's fine. The dad didn't return, there's no food, we're starting to get hungry, maybe we should go out and look? That would be my first thought, but this is the 1800s, times were different, maybe they weren't allowed to leave their house, maybe the father said, you go outside, I'll return with a shotgun. Oh, I'm not very sympathetic today, sorry, I feel for them, they died. Rip.
The slit-mouth woman is a rather disturbing legend surrounding a seemingly ordinary woman wearing a surgical mask as though to protect others from catching her cold. She appears before those walking alone at night, usually children, and asks, "Am I beautiful?" If you answer no, you are killed with a pair of scissors Kushisake Onna carries. If you answer yes, she takes off the mask to reveal her grotesque grin, a mouth that has been slit from ear to ear. "How about now?" she will ask. She will kill you if you say no, and cut you an identical smile if you say yes. Oh man! Okay, so there's just no way you ever want to run into this woman. There's just no way. There's no winning. There's no winning here because either way, screwed. This is like when somebody asks you like kind of a baiting question of like, obviously they look grotesque and like, do you look pretty? And they want you to say yes, like somebody wearing an outfit they love, you can clearly see that they love it, but they also look like a festival clown. And you're like, yeah, you really do. And they're like, oh my God, that's so great. I bought you one too. And you're like, thanks, Nana. So I feel like that's the kind of situation, but much more horrific. Nobody wants to be in that situation. Nobody wants to be given that situation.
A woman enters a hospital terribly ill, but not with any known pathogen. However, everyone who comes into contact with her immediately becomes sick. And unfortunately, this really happened. In 1994, cancer patient Gloria Ramirez was rushed into an emergency room. Doctors and nursing staff began to note strange symptoms, like oil covering her body and a horrible odor. Blood samples contained unknown particles and smelled like ammonia. The smell was so strong that 23 nurses and other emergency staff fainted or felt ill, with 5 needing hospital treatment. And sadly, Ramirez died.
Oof, I was like, at first I'm like, that sounds like COVID, but it wasn't. That's something even worse. I can't imagine being a doctor. Doctors put their lives on the line all the time because someone could walk in to a hospital and have something nobody knows anything about and it could infect everyone else. They're literally the first line of defense for every single virus that could potentially kill the human race, and I just, hats off to you guys. That's so creepy though. That is an episode of Grey's Anatomy. That's woo!
Vanishing Hitchhiker. Vanishing Hitchhiker is an urban legend in which people traveling by vehicle meet with or are accompanied by a hitchhiker who subsequently vanishes without explanation, often from a moving vehicle. This goes back to what I was saying earlier. This is the classic ghost story. If you drive down or pick someone up, it might be a ghost, they'll be in your car, they'll tell you to go somewhere, you'll arrive at your destination, and then when you get there, they'll be gone. Isn't that freaky? I don't know why, like I understand needing to hitch a ride, but as ghosts, can't you just teleport? fly? I don't know how ghosts travel. Like, zoom about? I feel like they don't need a car. I feel like they just think of a place and then they appear there. When I become a ghost one day, I'll let you guys know how travel works.
Hyakumi translates to 100 eyes, and, like its name suggests, Hyakumi is covered from head to foot with countless blinking yellow eyes. Underneath those eyes is a fleshy body, roughly man-sized.
Fleshy body.
With its eyes closed, it resembles a pink lump of flesh and is nearly indistinguishable from the Nuppopeppo. Hyakumi make their homes in old temples, guarding them from would-be thieves during the night. During the day, the sky is too bright for their many sensitive eyes, and so they only come out at night.
Good. I will not be going into any temples at night then. Guaranteed. I don't go to temples normally, so I think I'm pretty safe from this one. But man, is he gross. Like, I think one of the reasons I don't like spiders is because they have so many eyes. This would be another reason. The only thing is that it looks kind of squishy, like the kind of squishy that you want to squish, but you shouldn't.
The story goes that while riding along in an elevator, a person gets stuck between floors. After prying open the doors, they see that they're just a little above or below an exit point. Just as they decide to climb out, the elevator's power switches back on and chop. Hand, leg, or head gone. Sounds too ghastly to be true, right? Well, no. In 2003, Dr. Hitoshi Nakaido in Houston, Texas, tried to enter a hospital elevator. Horribly, the doors malfunctioned, closing early and pinning his body. The elevator rose and chopped off his head.
Ooh, that's so awful. Ugh. I knew someone who had that happen to a guy on a train as well, like with the window and then another train passed. That's terrifying. I'd hate that. That's part of the reason I don't like being trapped in spaces. Not because I'm claustrophobic, but I worry kind of that I might have to play like the 127 hours game.
Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary allegedly appears to individuals or groups who ritualistically invoke her name. This is done by repeatedly chanting her name into a mirror placed in a dimly lit or candlelit room. The name must be uttered 13 times, or some other specified number of times. Interesting. Yeah, again, this is another urban legend that appeared in the movie Urban Legend. I thought you only had to say Bloody Mary 3 times into a mirror, or 5 times. It's always 3 or 5 times. I've never heard 13 times Bloody Mary. No wonder I've never been cursed, because I haven't said it enough. I'll go look in the mirror after this and say it. Actually, there's a mirror right there. I'll say it 13 times. Bloody Mary.
This creature was the inspiration for one of the most memorable creatures in the 2006 fantasy drama Pan's Labyrinth, the Pale Man. However, this hideous creature comes straight from Japanese lore and is Tenome. His name means hand-eyes, or eyes on hand, and the legend says that a blind old man was beaten to death by hoodlums.
Aww.
As he lay dying, he wished that he had seen them to know who they were, wishing he'd had eyes on his hands. Because of his rage, he came back as a ghost with eyes on his hands, and now will kill whoever he lays his eyes on.
Oh, damn. I didn't know that is the most terrifying character in that entire movie, and I had no idea it was based on something real. It's unnerving for sure. Oh, God. I don't know whether I'm more creeped out by the actual man himself or the idea of having eyes on my hands. Like, every time you try to lift a pencil, it'll be like, stabbed in the eye. That's inconvenient. Poor guy.
October 2005, motorists in Frederica, Delaware, assumed that a body hanging from a tree was just a Halloween prop. But when state police finally went to investigate, they found that it wasn't just a decoration. An unnamed woman, aged 42, had committed suicide. A similar incident involving a body on a barbed wire fence occurred in Ohio in 2015, but that time it was murder.
I mean, the scariest part about that video was also them showing images of The Conjuring, and I'm just waiting for something awful to happen, because that is the scariest movie to me. Whew, I can't imagine. I mean, stumbling across that, like walking around in the forest. I mean, I used to live near a forest area in my hometown, and there was always rumors about people finding people hanging from their necks, like from trees and from the train paths. And I mean, of course they were urban legends, but imagine if they were real. That's awful. I would not want to be the person who found them. And also, Halloween props look so real nowadays. Like, you watch like TikTok people doing like makeup, and then also people doing special effects props. They look so real. Why wouldn't you think that?
The Hookman. The Hookman is an urban legend about a killer with a pirate-like hook for a hand attacking a couple in a parked car. In many versions of the story, the killer is typically portrayed as a faceless, silhouetted, old man wearing a raincoat and rain hat that conceals most of his features, especially his face. This one's a classic. This one's depicted in so many movies, particularly the movie Urban Legend, which is classic. Okay, there's movies that take inspiration from the urban legend of Hookman, such as Candyman and I Know What You Did Last Summer. But yeah, this is a classic story. You know, a couple go to like Lover's Lane and then they hear noises outside the car, so the guy goes out to take a look and then he doesn't come back, and then the woman inside begins to hear scratching or tapping noises on the roof of her car. And then she tries to drive away. She realizes that the guy was on top of the car hanging. It depends. Each variation is different, but the one I remember is like they move the car and then he hangs.
Said to be made up of the bones of unburied people who have died of starvation or at war, the Gasha Dokuro is always hungry. It hides in the woods at night, where it can blend in with skeletal trees, and then attacks unsuspecting passersby. According to the myths, the only warning that you're being stalked by one of these giant stealthy skeletons is that intended victims will suddenly experience a ringing in their ears. If that happens, be sure to hightail it out of there. Said to be both invisible and indestructible, the only true prevention is a Shinto charm.
I have ringing in my ears all the time. I mean, that's probably more a sign of the fact that I listened to music too loud when I was a kid, but that's not fun. It's also like very sad because like the idea of people just being kind of strewn after they passed away and not properly buried is a very, very sad term. So it makes sense that they would turn into something so sad and hungry. I definitely wouldn't want to be eaten by that. Again, noting the fear of being swallowed whole by absolutely anything and just like slowly digesting. No, thank you. No, thank you.
At the corner of his eye, he swore that things kept going missing from his apartment. The man claimed that someone was eating his food and moving things around. He reported an overwhelming sense that another being was present with him, and that he was far from alone. He was absolutely correct. One day he set up a hidden camera in the corner of his apartment, and to the man's horror, he captured footage of a woman slithering out of his cupboard and using his apartment as if it was hers, eating his food and using his belongings.
I mean, at least she never had a house party. But that's terrifying. That reminds me of an episode, I think it was Criminal Minds or something, where there was a man hiding in this woman's attic and spying on her, and this reminds me of that. Like, I just think that's just terrifying. I mean, imagine if this, like, I mean, I guess she's a squatter, right? That's one way to evade that's one way to evade expensive rent prices. I'd probably just be like, you know what, the place is yours, see ya, or invite them out and chat, and maybe it'd be like, hey, do you wanna make dinner together? I'm pretty lonely, so let's do this.
Slenderman. Slenderman is a fictional character that originated as an internet meme created by Something Awful forums user Victor Surge in 2009. It is depicted as resembling a thin, unnaturally tall man with a blank and usually featureless face and wearing a black suit. The Slenderman is commonly said to stalk, abduct, or traumatize people. Slenderman's a classic. He is one of the OG creepypastas. He's also become the most mainstream famous. They even made a movie about him starring that girl I don't like, Joey King. Was she in it? Seems like a movie she'd be in. Or was it Maisie Williams? Hate them both. They both seem the same. Same energy from both of those people, and I dislike them both. Anyway, Slenderman's very creepy. He lures children to the woods, brainwashes them, uses them to do his bidding, and then they bring more people to him. And then he just, kills people in the woods.
The Noble Beppo is a bizarre and creepy creature found in ruined temples, overgrown graveyards, and other dilapidated or rundown areas. This creature is known for its revolting appearance and smell, as it gives off a very strong odour of rotten meat.
Ew.
It looks like a large, flabby, roughly humanoid chunk of flesh about the size of a child, with lumpy, undeveloped hands and feet, and vaguely indiscernible facial features. Nupopeppo appear usually only at night, and are not known to cause any particular harm or mischief, other than generally being disgusting.
Okay, so usually when people create urban legends, it's to prevent young children from approaching, rivers or oceans or forests alone. Like the Kelpie in Celtic folklore is to prevent kids from going to the rivers so that they don't drown or whatever. But this is just like, hey, there's a creepy gooey man that smells like meat, rotting meat, but he's harmless, so don't worry about it. Like, I feel like maybe this was a creature thought up to excuse all of the rotting meat, maybe? I don't know. Especially people who live near like a poultry killing farm or something, which I did. I did live near one, and trust me, oh man, is it foul. So, I'm not offended. If I got a pair of nose plugs, I wouldn't be too scared of the guy. Maybe right away I would be, but get to know them. Probably just looking for some love and a good bath.
Turns out the real story is actually one of misfortune and loneliness. The Green Man was not a monster at all, but a man named Raymond Robinson. When Robinson was 8 years old, he was attempting to view a bird's nest and was electrocuted by some electrical lines of a nearby tram line. Robinson narrowly escaped death, but was left severely disfigured. He lost his nose, eyes, an ear, and one of his arms. The skin on his face was so badly damaged by the shock that it glowed with a green hue, hence his nickname of the Green Man.
That's so sad. Ugh, that's so sad. There's some people calling him that as well. Like, you just got electrocuted when I was a kid. Can't do anything about it now, but you're all gonna make fun of me for it. People are mean. People are so mean. And the worst part is, there's a dark side of me that wants to make a joke. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do that. That's just awful.
Florida, the gravity-defying Spook Hill. The phenomenon that happens at Spook Hill is real. Cars that are parked in neutral will appear to roll uphill. Legends say the hill is either the state of a Native American burial ground or an epic battle of a Native American chief against a crocodile. But the truth is, it's actually just an illusion created by the hill's surroundings. While cars appear to be rolling uphill, they're still just rolling downhill. Oh, now that I'm looking back at it, it doesn't look uphill anymore. Like, in the distance, you can see that it goes up. That's down. But I get it. When I first looked at it, I thought that was rolling uphill. But I like that everything, when people can't explain anything, or the strange things go on, they're like, it was built atop a native burial ground. It's the same plot in every horror movie as well. It's like, the house is haunted. It was built atop a native burial ground.
Red Room Curse. The story centers on the idea that a cursed pop-up will appear on a random victim's computer. The pop-up is just an image of a door, and a recorded voice will ask, "Do you like the Red Room?" The pop-up will continue to appear until the voice can finish its question, even if it is closed. Those who see the pop-up are later found dead, the walls painted red with their own blood. That's not fun. I mean, I like the color red. You see me wear red lipstick, but I feel like in terms of horror movies, in terms of lore, everything's online right now. You're watching this video online. So it only seems natural that the progression of myths should transfer to the online world in some way, shape, or form. So that is exactly what the Red Room is. It's an evolution of the idea of curses. When it could just very well be a virus that destroys your life and forces you to have no other option but to end it all. Maybe that's the curse of this. Like, maybe it drains your bank account or sends out all of your worst picks. I don't know. Sooner or later, Toronto residents hear the tale of a lawyer who had peculiar fondness for running full bore into his office windows to demonstrate how strong they were. I haven't heard this, and I live in Toronto, but I guess now's the time I'm hearing this. This practice caught up with him eventually as he crashed into a window and went sailing to his death. This hobby was actually practiced by Gary Hoy, a senior partner in an area law firm with an office on the 24th floor. On July 9th, 1993, Hoy made his signature tackle against the window to impress some visiting law students. The pane finally broke and sent him plummeting to his death. In a eulogy, this is gonna be brutal, isn't it? In a eulogy, managing partner Peter Lowers called Hoy one of the best and brightest at the firm. But he somehow managed to go, "Hey, this window's fine," and it broke. I mean, after years and years of wear and tear, maybe change it up with the amount of windows you're running into. Like, don't just make it the same window every single time, you know? Change it up. You know, hit every single window in the office. Make sure every single one's got some tender loving care. And then maybe that won't happen. Or at least it'll take you a few decades, like if you do one a year. This just sounds like poor planning from his side of things.
The many legends of Riverdale Road. One day there was a driver who hit a jogger, freaked out and left him for dead. Now it's said that if you park at the site of the crash, you'll hear disembodied footsteps getting closer and closer to your car. People have reported handprints on their windows and banging noises as if someone was kicking the outside. That is frightening. That's like a classic urban legend of don't drive down this road, someone died there. You'll see in your mirror someone sat in the back seat, or it's always a bride in white. There's always a bride who died on their wedding day, and then she will appear in your back seat of your car if you drive down a certain road at a certain time. It's classic ghost business. I love it.
Cursed. It's considered one of the most haunted places in Japan.
Ah, now we're talking.
Several rumors revolve around the tunnel, including its length. Found in Kyoto Prefecture, it's said to be 444 meters long, equivalent to about 1,456 feet, with
Damn.
4 being a suspicious and unlucky number in Japanese tradition. However, it's said to vary in length depending on the time of day, sometimes
What?
longer and sometimes shorter.
Creepy.
Furthermore, it's said to have a particular mirror inside. If you look into this mirror, you will glimpse a vision of your own death.
Oh, good God. I don't want to know. I don't want to know what my own death was, or my own death will be. That just sounds awful. I hope it's a good one, but jeez. I mean, already this kind of tunnel gives me a little bit of claustrophobia, because just the idea of maybe like running through it would be terrifying, because it feel like it would take forever, and at one point you'd be like, oh, it's gonna take as long to go back as it is about to continue, so you might as well keep going forward. But that idea of just a forever dark space is not pleasant to me. The bunny man. In the tale, an escaped mental patient takes to gutting bunnies and hanging them from a bridge underpass. Later, the maniac is said to have graduated to gutting and hanging teens in a similar manner. Locals were cautioned to never be caught near the underpass, which is now known to most people as Bunnyman Bridge, on Halloween night. This story likely spawned from the very real presence of a roving madman in the area. In October 1970, a couple reported seeing a man dressed in a white suit and wearing bunny ears who began yelling at them that they were on private property. To punctuate his point, he threw a hatchet at their window screen, apparently shattering it. There was a second sighting of Bunnyman 2 weeks later when a security guard spotted a hatchet-wielding man chipping away at a porch railing. Police tried unsuccessfully to locate the man. While he didn't disembowel anyone, thank goodness, the thought of an adult wielding both a hatchet and a pair of rabbit ears somehow manages to be just as disturbing. That sounds like a naturalistic superhero, or like supervillain, you know what I mean? Like for some kind of average superhero to defeat. Like they don't have any special powers, he's just this like really evil guy in a bodysuit. This is like a very dangerous furry. That's what that is. That's very strange. I mean, this is kind of like one of those urban legends, right? Where, you know, they go to Lover's Lane and then all of a sudden there's a bang on the window. I mean, I guess they're taken from something real, which is the most terrifying part about urban legends.
Alabama Hell's Gate Bridge. Oh, I love this one. There are 2 legends associated with Hell's Gate Bridge. One, that if you drive your car out to the middle of the bridge and turn off the lights, the couple will magically appear in your car and leave a wet spot on the seat. The other, which is how the bridge got its name, is the belief that if you drive over the bridge and look over your shoulder halfway through, the scenery behind you turns into a portal to hell engulfed in flames. That is amazing. I've seen this, I've spoken about this on Top 5 numerous times actually, and there's videos of people visiting Hell's Gate Bridge. Obviously, it's a legend for a reason. Legends are rarely true. But it's very freaky nonetheless.
They have either one or
What
2
is
legs,
that?
which they hop around wildly on, a single large eye, and a long, protruding tongue. The Karakaza Kozu is not particularly dangerous as far as Japanese spirits go, mainly keeping to itself and trying to surprise humans.
Woo!
Its favourite method of surprising humans is to sneak up on them and deliver a large, oily lick with its enormous tongue. Caution is advised, however, as there are umbrella spirits which are dangerous to humans, and care should be taken not to confuse them with this more playful spirit.
What? A nice oily lick? That's solid. That's pretty good. I don't know why. Again, like another one that's not supposed to be terrifying, but, you know, tries to scare you, but going, licked ya, gotcha, oops. That's hilarious. You know me, I'm an absolute coward, so I probably would be scared off the bat, but, well, and then annoyed because he licked me and it was oily. Gross. Gross. What's the point? I mean, part of me believes that these creatures are real because why would you make them up? There's literally no reason. I don't understand. The Main Hermit. For decades, people who vacationed in central Maine's North Pond area were puzzled by items that would go missing. Socks, no. Batteries and food from cabins, flashlights from camping tents. Rumors spread that a permanent fixture of the area would forage for sustenance and supplies. They were right. For 27 years, Christopher Knight lived alone in the woods, keeping tabs on the hikers, canoeists, and other temporary residents of the grounds. When he was confronted by a game warden in 2013, Knight admitted he was responsible for an average of 40 robberies a year, despite the likely protestations of family and friends who dismissed tales of a hermit lurking somewhere in the woods. His identification proved that someone had been watching and waiting for nearly 3 decades. Ugh. Anyone who goes to their cottage in the summer, you know, it's nice, it's a good escape. But if it's one of those cottages in the middle of nowhere, that's the most terrifying place for me because you're alone. And some people are like, I'm alone. But then other people are like, yo, you're alone though.
Sewer alligator. Sewer alligator stories date back to the late 1920s and early 1930s. It is an urban legend based upon reports of alligator sightings in rather unorthodox locations, in particular New York City. I know about this. There is actually a location somewhere, it might be New York. They have a statue of an alligator near a sewer to almost commemorate this. I could be lying, but I thought this was almost somewhat real, but not as real as people thought. I think people thought there were just like loads of alligators living in the sewers, but there weren't. Maybe they found one. But anyway, there's a illegit statue. I've seen it. Not in person, but I've seen a picture. Curse of the Bambino. I know of the Bambino because of the movie The Sandlot, which I was obsessed with growing up, because growing up, all I wanted to be was an American child. Which is funny because now I live in North America. I've lived in America and Canada, and now I'm Canadian. But always growing up, I just wanted to be an American child. So I loved movies like The Sandlot. I loved The Mighty Ducks. I just wanted to be like them. I wanted to do everything they did. I wanted Chuck Taylor's Converse All-Stars.
They wear little boys' kimonos and wide-brimmed hats, the typical outfit of a tofu-selling young boy of the Edo period. They are usually depicted with 2 eyes, but in some illustrations they appear as having only 1 eye. They are usually found in urban areas in close proximity to people. Tofu kozo are timid and weak creatures, and are not known to be aggressive towards humans.
No.
On rare occasions, a tofu kozo may follow a human home on a rainy night, but for the most part, they shy away from any confrontation.
Oh, okay. I would invite them in for dinner. Why not? I mean, if they're shy, that's okay. And if they don't try and hurt you, that's also fine. And also, if they're not like a weird, creepy, slit-mouthed woman or a googly-eyed, jiggly bear, then I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. You can come chill out, but let's make some tofu together. I'm in. In 1987, the Chicago Reader published a story about Ruth McCoy, a woman living in Chicago housing project who made a frantic call to 911 insisting she was being attacked in her apartment. Responders eventually found her dead of gunshot wounds. Investigators determined that her assailants had gained access to her unit by breaking through the connecting wall in the adjoining apartment and climbing in through her medicine cabinet. What? The complex was built that way intentionally so that plumbers investigating leaks could simply remove the cabinet to check the pipes. It became a frequent mode of entry for burglars and, in McCoy's case, her killers. What? That's so sad. I mean, I wonder why this story is called The Candyman if it's about plumbers sneaking in through a plumbing hatch in a housing district, but that was not the story I expected. I thought the Candyman was going to be the guy, I think it's like the The Dreamscape dude? No, that's the Sandman. Guys, you know what I'm talking about, right? Comment below, remind me which one I'm talking about. Yeah, man, that's creepy. That's so sad.
The curse of the Bambino was a superstitious sport curse in Major League Baseball derived from the 86-year championship drought of the Boston Red Sox from 1918 to 2004. The superstition was named after Babe Ruth, locally known as the Bambino, who played for the Red Sox until he was sold to the New York Yankees in 1920. Yeah, the curse... Well, no, the curse was drought from 1980 to 2004, but they're blaming on him. He was sold in 1920. Why is it his fault? He put a curse on them? I don't know specifically about the curse, I just know Babe Ruth. And they named a chocolate bar after him. And then again, I just know they referenced him many times in The Sandlot. Is it his fault? He left 2 years after the drought. I mean, if the drought's going on for 2 years, I'd probably have left too. He apparently hits a ball really great with a bat. I know that much.